Good afternoon, everyone. This is Bob Pompiani. We're live today at Heinz Field getting ready for Mike Tomlin's press conference, which will be coming up here shortly. After the Steelers go 9-0 and now looking to 10-0 with a game against Jacksonville coming up this week in Florida. We welcome all our viewers here on Pittsburgh CW as well as all the Steeler media platforms. Thank you for joining us today. Another opportunity for the Steelers to get another one in the hopper here and extend a lead, which is comfortable right now over the Ravens and the Browns, both at 6-3. Baltimore coming off a loss to New England. But the Steelers took care of business against the Bengals. A big game for them because it's an AFC game. It's a division game, and they won 36-10. First time seeing first-year quarterback Joe Burrow, and they did a great job defensively in terms of shutting that team down on third down, where the Steelers limited Burrow and his team to 0 for 13. That's something you just don't see too much of, and that's what the Steeler defense did. On the offensive side of the board, it was Ben Roethlisberger, who should be up for Offensive Player of the Week this week with 4 touchdown performance in those win conditions as the Steelers win by 26 points. And next up, a trip down to Jacksonville to take on a Jaguar team that has lost 8 in a row, and they will also be sending a first-year quarterback against this Steeler defense. For all of that and the latest injury situation, we send you over to the south side right now, where head coach Mike Tomlin is ready to begin his press conference.
Good afternoon. First, I'll start outlining the week for us. In this COVID environment, man, we're in the intensive protocol as an organization. Like last week, this week we'll also be meeting remotely. The only in-person work that will take place for us this week are the walkthroughs and the practices. And it is my hope that we do a better job this week than we did a week ago. Better instructing, better listening, better use of the time, better understanding of the technology and the resources at our disposal in an effort to combat the challenges that are associated with it. And no question, you lose a little bit when you're not in the same physical space, when you don't get a chance to look in a man's eye or feel the reactions to the information. And so we, as a staff, working extremely hard to avail ourselves of all the options in that regard in an effort to be at our best. And we're also open to learning from players. It's probably more of an adjustment for us as coaches than it is for players. Just they live in that technological world, handheld devices and so forth. They appear to be extremely comfortable with it. I think there's less comfort from a coaching standpoint, but in an effort to deliver appropriate material and an effort to have them duly prepared, it has our attention and it is required. We'll be in that state again this week, and I think that's a significant thing for us just to get better here this second time around the track, if you will. From a health standpoint, in terms of the team, in game, we had a couple bumps and bruises that could affect potential availability or at least work at the front part of the week. Jalen Samuels had a quad. Trey Edmonds had a hamstring. We'll see where the week takes us in terms of some of those guys. There is really, really big optimism in the potential return to 2 guys that have missed some time. Mike Hilton is back to work tomorrow, and we're excited about that. And Chris Wormley as well, who's missed a significant amount of time with his knee injury. In the midst of that, I think we've gotten an opportunity to play some young people like we've talked about quite a bit and gain some experience and have some success in the midst of that. And all that does is strengthen us as we get some of these regulars back. And we know with the adversity and the challenges that lie ahead, that's going to be needed. In review of the game, I think the biggest significant component or analysis or critique of the game is our ineffective run game. And we spent a lot of time talking and thinking about that in an effort to move forward. One of the things I'll acknowledge is as a team, you always go through lulls in the season where components of your play are lacking, and it requires a recenter of energy or attention and focus. And I believe that's where we are in regards to the run game right now. So we'll get about that task this week. The only thing that's perfect about our team is our record. We acknowledge that there will always be things that we need to work on. The last several weeks, for example, our pass defense or third down conversion defense was lacking. I think we spent some time talking about it, third and long and so forth. And, we've recentered ourselves in that area and gotten better. I can't say enough about the efforts of the guys on third down defensively, for example, last Sunday. So I look forward to getting into the lab with the coaches and the guys and attacking this run game situation. It's something that we shouldn't have a difficult time pushing through, to be quite honest with you. We have very capable people in that area. but it is below the line as we sit here today. Thankfully, it wasn't significant enough in terms of costing us a game at this juncture, but we're proceeding with that level of urgency. As we look at Jacksonville, one of the things that really captured my attention is this running back, James Robinson. I cannot say enough about him and the respect that I have for what he has done. I read something this morning where he has run for more yards than any undrafted rookie in the history of our game through this point in his rookie season, and that says it all. But beyond that fact, when you look at the tape, his style of play is impressive. He's a deliberate one-cut guy. He's downhill. He's quick to holes. He's got good vision. He finishes off runs extremely well with great pad level. Just stories like James Robinson really, those of us that are football people, man, we just have a lot of appreciation for that. I mean, this is an Illinois State guy, undrafted, and is carving his niche out in this thing. And so as much respect as we have for it, we acknowledge it as a big-time challenge this week. I would imagine with a rookie quarterback as well, they're going to continue to lean on him and his exploits and their exploits in that area. It starts there for us. We cannot allow this guy to control the game in that way. On the other side of the ball, I thought a significant component, particularly in their last matchup in Green Bay, was their ability to get the ball. And we all know Green Bay's ability to possess the ball. Green Bay, I think, is number one in the NFL in safeguarding the football. They had some significant turnovers in that game, and that turnover element of play is something that we need to be cognizant of as we head down to Jacksonville. We've always had rough and tumble games with those guys down there. They always play really tough defense. Todd Wash, their defensive coordinator, has been down there for a number of years. We had a rough and tumble game down there with them a few years ago that we had to march back and win late. He was a coordinator then, and it was tough sledding for us that day. We're anticipating that type of environment, that type of competitive spirit from those guys. They got quality players at all levels. The linebacker level in particular, Miles Jack is a really impressive player. Joe from up in Cleveland, they acquired in free agency, we're very familiar with. He's gotten after us in the past. He beat us last year, quite frankly, in Cleveland. Was a significant component of that. So we're preparing with an edge. We understand that we have a bullseye on our back, if you will, being where we are in this process. We don't run away from that. We embrace that. We enjoy the challenges that the National Football League presents week in and week out. We acknowledge that we're going on the road to an AFC South group, one that we have a history with, one that always plays us tough and always brings a certain edge to play. And so we respect that, and we're going to proceed this week with our work with those things in mind. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Dale Wally, go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, and looking at the issues with the run game, is it the plays that you're running? Is it the problems that other teams or things that teams are doing to you? Is it personnel? What is there something you can put your finger on with that?
Sure. It's generally usually a combination of all the above. And specifically last week, I was not surprised of the commitment that Cincinnati had to packing the line of scrimmage. We stepped into a stadium where we hadn't seen our quarterback all week. And so it's reasonable to expect them to have an agenda to push us toward that in an effort to check his readiness, our collective cohesion or what have you in that area. But sometimes we're just not doing good enough as well. And so it's a combination of all the things that you suggest. We'll roll our sleeves up and get about the business of attacking it this week.
Mike Pursuta, go ahead.
Mike, what did you see from Marcus Allen? Did he do enough to get another look as that lone inside linebacker in the dime? And is that a position you would like to solidify with one guy if you can?
You know, I'm just living week to week in that regard. I like the contributions of Marcus thus far. Marcus has a skill set that lends itself to those environmental things, man. He's a good blitzer. He can run really good for the linebacker position. He's a good coverage guy for the linebacker position. And so his attributes have been an asset to us in that area. We'll continue to work with him in that area, but we're not opposed to looking at a bunch of different combinations that you guys have seen thus far. We've looked at a lot of different combinations in the time that guys like Mike Hilton and Devin Bush and Ulysses Gilbert have been out. We've looked at guys like Marcus Allen and Antoine Brooks and on the outside, the cornerback spot, even Justin Lane. So we like our experiences there. We're getting a sense of what those young guys are capable of and how they can help us. We've had some success along the way in spite of some of their lack of experience. And so all of those are good discussions and good issues to have as we formulate this plan.
Joe Rudder.
Yeah, Mike, this is the third of your last 4 road games. I think we're going to a state that's on the COVID restriction list for Pennsylvania. Is that a concern? And what precautions do you guys take on the road with hotels and things like that?
No added concern for me. I just got a great deal of belief in not only of the best practices outlined by the NFL offices, but our application of and the commitment that our organization has in terms of adhering to it and working to keep the guys as safe as we can. And so this is business as usual for us in terms of 2020 business, at least.
Brooke Pryor.
Yeah, Mike, have you found the consistency in your messaging that you've had over the years? Is it especially beneficial this year? You've talked about being light on your feet, making a plan, but being light on your feet. Is that what makes you guys so effective this season?
I'm not going to pretend to believe that that's the reason. I'm hopeful that I have the group duly prepared and ready to anticipate the challenges and the twists and turns that is the journey. But that's just me doing my due diligence.
Jim Colony.
Yeah, Mike, without all the preseason, off-season work that you normally have with rookies, how do you explain how many contributions you've gotten from pretty much every draft pick so far this year?
Those guys are working extremely hard, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the quality leadership that we have from our veteran players who do a really good job of embracing our young people and not only helping them in terms of schematics and X's and O's, but just way of life things, how to take care of your body and things of that nature. We have a really good culture here in that regard. And I would imagine if you ask the rookies that they would echo the same sentiment that the veteran support that they get is significant in terms of allowing them to answer the challenges of playing.
Albie Oxenreiter.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good.
Mike, Cam Sutton talked yesterday and suggested that coaching last week kind of helped in the avoiding a potential letdown. What have you done better, if you think that you've done better in any way, with preparing for teams that at least record-wise present the opportunity for a trap game?
You know, I'm not into the trap game discussion. I understand that that's things that you guys like to talk about. But this is the NFL. And more than anything, the guys know my attitude regarding that. We are not a Big Ten team playing a MAC opponent this week. Every time we step into a stadium, we're playing professionals, players and coaches. And we got a ridiculous level of respect for that. And so, you know, write your story, man. Follow your storylines about trap games and things of that nature. We understand what we're going into in Jacksonville, that's a group that's trying to kick our butt, a professional group, a capable group, and we're preparing with that understanding.
Ray Fittipaldo.
Mike, you touched on it a little bit earlier. You guys are second in the league in turnover margin. Was that a specific conversation that you had with Ben and the other guys that handle the ball during the offseason as far as what you needed from this offense?
It goes beyond conversations. It's about action. And we start every Wednesday workday with ball handling and ball security drills for those that throw it, catch it, run it. It's just a part of our culture, just like pursuing and working to take care of the ball on the other side. We believe that those two things work hand in hand, and discussions are just the very beginnings of it. We got to make sure that our actions match our words, and as a staff, we work extremely hard to do so from a drill standpoint in our week's prep.
Tim Benz.
Mike Robinson, that you talked about before, the running back. Stylistically, do you find him to be similar to any of the other veteran running backs that you've seen so far this year? And do they block it up for him in the same sort of fashion that they did effectively for Fournette against you guys in recent seasons?
You know, I don't know that I've looked for comparisons yet in terms of his run style and so forth. I just got a lot of respect for it. He's a strong runner. He's got built-in leverage. You know, he's not an extremely tall guy, 5'9" or so. His angular body positions, the pad level is impressive, and that allows his power to fall forward. They're very much approaching things the way that they have in the past, although Jay Gruden is a new coordinator, I think there's a certain style of play that Coach Marone likes, and that's nuts and bolts, run first and control the game and the time of possession and things of that nature. That's always been kind of Jacksonville Jaguar football since he's been there, so that's what we're anticipating.
Jeff Hathorn.
Mike, how key has forcing turnovers been to your 9-0 start, and what's allowed you to carry over that success from last year into this?
You know, like I mentioned, we not only talk about it, but we drill it. And the guys, you know, I can't say enough about the effort of the guys. I mean, you know, Cam Sutton has forced a fumble in the last 3 football games, and that's a guy that doesn't play every snap of defense. He's more of a situational defender. I can't say enough about his awareness and his willingness to put that on tape and how it builds and encourages others to do similar things. And so we're just going to keep working in that regard. We recognize that the turnover element of the play is significant, and it's something that we got to continually work at.
Didi Kinkabala.
We all understand that the run game is puzzle pieces. The whole entire puzzle has to fit together. But when you look at the ball carrier piece of the run game, how satisfied are you there? You've called James Conner your bell cow. Do you think that you need a change there in some way?
I do not. He is. We're going to get better.
Jesse Washington.
Coach, you mentioned earlier about how it's harder to succeed when you can't look a man in his eye as often as you'd like to. Why is that, and what have you done to overcome that during this COVID season?
You know, it's just human nature, man. You know, it's easier to be wired in and engaged in conversation when there's close proximity. You can feel body clues as someone who teaches or instructs. And so it gives you an indication of whether you need to move on a particular subject or repeat. And I think just as teachers, and that's what we are as coaches, you need that feedback, you need that feel, and it's challenging and difficult doing it via Zoom and things of that nature. But again, I'm not complaining. I'm just acknowledging, and I'm really trying to set a mentality for the week for us as a staff that we can get better in that area as we proceed into the second week of this.
Mark Cavoli.
Hey, Mike, sort of a subjective question here. Have you guys found an identity yet? And if so, what is it?
You know, hopefully our identity is winning. We need to be diverse and versatile enough to be what we need to be just about in any circumstance. We need to have enough depth to meet the challenges of attrition that's associated in this game. We got to have enough talent across a wide variety of areas to play a certain style of play. When circumstances or opponent dictates it. But more than anything, I want our personality to be that of a winner.
Will Graves.
Mike, are teams just defending you differently in the run game than they were in the first half of the season? And is it more just losing, not winning enough battles at the point of attack more than anything else?
Guys, I think I've been very clear about where we are as a run unit. We're not up to snuff right now. We accept ownership for that. We're going to roll our sleeves up and solve it. We had a similar discussion a couple weeks ago when you guys were asking about our 3rd and long defense. We did similar things there, and I expect similar results in regards to the run game.
Brooke Pryor.
Like you mentioned that the younger guys, the players are adapting better to the virtual environment because they're familiar with handheld devices, things like that. How have you adapted to Zoom since March, and how have you seen your coaches adapt or figuring out ways to get around being able to look guys face to face?
I'm working hard not to be resistant to it. Our coaches are doing the same, but some of us are dinosaurs, man. We give ground grudgingly, if you will. But more than anything, we're gaining experience with it. And the more experience you gain, the more comfortable you get, the more innovative you get. And hopefully that's transpiring for all of us. I know I'm working hard so that it transpires for me and the things that I need to do with the group.
Didi Kinkabala.
Ben last week said that his arm felt especially live, and that perhaps not throwing all week was something that he was going to talk to you about again. Have you had that conversation, and are you willing to allow him to sort of forego throwing at practice a few days?
We did have that conversation. I'll acknowledge it was a very brief one. and I'll see him at practice on Thursday.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All right, that's Mike Tomlin. Press conference, a very entertaining one today, considering he had some interesting things to say. Number one, the only thing perfect about us is our record, which is interesting. And then on the topic of the run game, which is a hot topic because they have not had a lot of success there for the past 3 games, asked about whether James Conner is still the bell cow and does he need to make a change there. And the answer is, I do not. He is. We're going to get better. And quite frankly, they have to. And I think it's the right outlook for a team that's still trying to solidify their season as a number 1 seed and get the bye that comes with it. So entertaining stuff today from Mike Tomlin, and they get back to work starting tomorrow with preparations for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, it's a team that's lost 8 in a row, but it can be a dangerous team, especially one that knows that they're going to have to make plays on defense. He talked a lot about forcing the ball out, which is what teams try to do. And also another thing that he really didn't get into, but I think is important, is the special teams. Jacksonville last week had a 91-yard kickoff return. They also had 3 make that 4 punts inside the opponent's 15-yard line. Whenever you can switch the playing field, it makes it a lot more difficult to do what you got to do offensively. So these are things that they're going to have to guard against. On the topic of a trap game, he doesn't believe in that. He said, we're not a Big Ten team taking on a MAC opponent. This is the NFL. And again, that's the right attitude heading into a game like this, where it looks like, at least from the outside, to be a trap game with the Baltimore Ravens coming up on the other end of it on Thanksgiving night. So that's going to do it for our press conference today. We'll have more coming up on KDK TV News at 5 and 6. And reminder to you, we have the Mike Tomlin Show. Missy Matthews and I will be here on Saturday night, 11:35 KDK TV, and we invite you to join us for that. The game on Sunday is on KDK. We have post-game following it, so a lot of action coming up on this game day as the Steelers will try to get to 10 wins and no losses, the only undefeated team in the NFL. That's going to do it for the press conference. Our thanks to our viewers here on CW, also the Steeler media platforms. We'll see you again next week, and we hope you have a wonderful week ahead.